Okay, this is our proof example for parallelograms, and this is actually a released error test question, so they do have proofs on the error test, and they are about the things that you're learning about, so this is why we do this and why we have these proofs. So we're given this picture, and it says two pairs of parallel lines intersect to form a parallelogram as shown. So K and L are parallel, that's these guys, and then M and N are parallel. That's this top and bottom line. If you don't know, this 2 slashes right here is the symbol for parallel. Okay, so they give that to us in number 1 of our proof. And it says, place the statements and reasons in the table to complete the proof that opposite angles of a parallelogram are congruent. So you discovered this and you found this out, and now you're going to prove that it's true. And so when I do a proof, I always try to go through and see if there are options that I can cross out or get rid of right away. Okay. So let's look. 1 congruent to 2. There's angle 1, and here's angle 2. Well, those are alternate interior angles, so that's a true statement. So I'm going to leave that one there. It has potential to be an option that I put in my proof. 1 congruent to 3. If we are looking at this sort of parallelogram in the middle of this shape, 1 and 3 are the opposite angles. So 1 congruent to 3 is essentially what we're trying to prove. So actually, I'm going to put this in step 4 of my proof because that's what I want. It says prove the opposite angles are congruent. 1 and 3 are opposite angles. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in because that's what I want. And then let's see. We are left with 2 congruent to 3. That could be helpful. And then 1 congruent to 1 might be helpful, might not. We'll just leave it there. And then we have our options over here. All of those are true things. They're correct, so I'm not going to cross any of those off. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to step 2 of my proof. I need to somehow get that 1 is congruent to 3. So it means I need to find something to put in my step 2 that has an angle 1 or an angle 3 in it. And so if I'm looking at my options, I look at this first thing and it says angle 1 congruent to angle 2. Well, that has an angle 1 in it, and I need to start talking about angle 1. So that's a good thing. So I'm going to put this in number 2 of my proof. It's going to say angle 1 congruent to angle 2. If we look at angle 1 and angle 2, those are alternate interior angles, and they're congruent, which, lucky for us, is an option right there. So I'm going to abbreviate. I'm going to say AIA, alternate interior angles are congruent. So I've used that and that. Great. Okay. Now, we've already put in step 4, and it has an angle 3 in it. And right now, in my step 1 and 2, I don't have an angle 3 yet. So I need to pick my option down here that involves an angle 3. Well, that's not the one that only talks about angle 1, so that's gone. So my only option left is angle 2 congruent to angle 3. So in step 3, I'm going to put angle 2 congruent angle 3. And if we look at our picture, here's angle 2. Here's angle 3. They are both in sort of the bottom right corners of their parts of the picture, so those are corresponding angles. And lucky for us, there's an option that says corresponding angles are congruent. So I'm going to put that in reason number 3. Corresponding, I'm abbreviating again, angles. And then I'm just going to put the congruent symbol, congruent. So we've used that. Okay. So we took our lines are parallel. We said 1 is congruent to 2, alternate interior. 2 is congruent to 3, corresponding. And now you have angle 2 congruent to 2 different things, 1 and 3. So that must mean that 1 and 3 are congruent, and that is the transitive property. Transitive. This box is kind of small, so hopefully you can read my handwriting that says transitive property. And there's a transitive property down here. I don't have room to write the of congruence part, but it's basically the same. Okay. And so now you have proved that the opposite angles, 1 and 3, in your whole parallelogram are congruent.